What's up, people? Welcome to another episode of I Am Negan, a TWD Universe podcast. My name is Adam Vale. I'm a senior editor over at the Koalition.com. That's with a K. And I am joined by editor-in-chief, Richard Bailey Jr. What's up, Rich?
What's up, Adam? What's up, listeners and viewers?
And Throwdown Zone, Carlos Romero. What's up?
Yo, what's going on?
What's going on is that today, people... Oh, this is going to be a special episode. Going to break formula because a lot of the nitty gritty that happened in this episode took place toward the end. There was a big build up, but man, what happened? I don't even want to get into it just yet. Just real quick then. Just so you know, we're going in a different format. We're just going to free flow this one and really discuss it. So right off the bat, this is for The Walking Dead, season 11, episode 18, A New Deal. If you have not watched this episode, you can go on AMC Plus right now. It is there to watch. Go ahead, sub up just for the remainder of this, if that's all you care about. For The Walking Dead, there's only a few episodes left, and then that's it. You're done. Whatever. But there's a lot of good content on there, so just consider that. But no plug for them. They're not paying us. I'm just giving them a shout out because they are posting these episodes a week early. And as you know, this episode doesn't air until next Sunday. Well, upcoming Sunday, when you're watching this. So, but it's going to be the 5th. This should be posted up on the 5th, right, Rich? So there you go with that. But we are going to be discussing this episode. So like I said, if you haven't seen it, watch it now. Or if you don't care, get ready. A lot of spoilers. Also, a quick thank you to everybody that's been subbing and following us on iTunes and Spotify, and of course on YouTube. That's I Am Negan. And the Koalition, the website. We got reviews, interviews, all kinds of stuff. It's been around for a long time, so there's plenty of content there. Just want to get all that out the way because we've been seeing an increase in interest. No surprise, since this is toward the end for the mothership, but not all the other spinoffs. But right off the bat, we just got to jump into this. All right, 3, 2, 1. Boop. So this episode is called A New Deal. And right before we recorded, I told you guys that title has a double meaning. Not so much of what took place in the episode, because some people are probably, oh, the New Deal. Well, that's with Carol, right? Carol trying to figure things out. That's why she gave up Horns being up. No. I see it also as a new deal for the long-term fans that follow the comics, because Sebastian, who gets killed in this episode, does not die in the comics. And he pretty much rots in a jail cell. And I know a lot of people in the community were bitter. They were super bitter about this. And again, like I said, people, there's spoilers for this episode, but this ties in toward the comic series. So if you really don't want to know anything, tune out right now. You ready? You guys ready?
Yeah.
All right, because
I'm definitely tuning out. So.
All right, you tuning out? All right, cool. So it's just mentioned. All right, here we go, people. And the reason why I'm going this far, people are like, oh, why are you getting all crazy? Because Sebastian in the comics, he kills Rick Grimes. Rick dies at the hands of Sebastian, and that was a big controversy that they let this kid live and rot in the cell, and people thought that he should have died, and this and this. It didn't happen. So for him to die in the show, it just shows that it puts a wrench in what everybody was thinking of how this last season was going to play out. It's clearly not going to play out the same way it did in the comics for a few reasons. The other variable is the fact that technically Rick isn't dead in this universe. Remember, he got choppered off, and we already know that the actor's been seen on set a few months ago filming, whether it's for this or the confirmed spinoff. Either way, he is alive in this universe. So that's already changing the game here. But the Sebastian, the annoying kid, he was annoying in the comics, and he's annoying in this show, and he's dead. So right off the bat, that's huge, and I just want to get your guys' reactions. What did you think? And then we'll jump into all the other parts, because there's a lot of moving parts in this episode, but I had to get this part out the way first, because that's the big one we all want to talk about. Sebastian is dead. What did you guys think, Rich Carlos?
Well, I think if the people watching the show, I imagine they all will be happy to see this happen, because the character is very annoying. There were the people obviously protesting, wanting to see him pay for, all the stuff that he did, that we saw him do this season. So I think it is a big deal because it happened, because I do remember that, yes, this is the guy that killed Rick. But it's also a big deal because I imagine that it's going to impact all of the characters that we care about, because there's no way in hell that the mayor is not going to want somebody to pay hell for what happened to him. So Eugene and Mercer's sister, aka his girlfriend, Max,
yeah.
there you go. Something has to happen with them, because she was the one that was a part of this.
Well, she knows. I think she knows. I'm not sure she knows, but if you recall from the reaction that Sebastian had when he was like, it was her, she did it, and when goes chasing, they don't really focus too much on Governor Milton, just besides she's with Mercer, was like, protect me. It didn't seem, I don't know if she knows that conversation took place with Max and Sebastian, and that's what she recorded. So I think because we saw in the little trailer afterwards, she's like, oh, someone's going to pay for this whole thing. She doesn't say Max. And you had joked, she was like, oh, Max isn't going to have a job after this. Technically, she could go back to work, because if the governor doesn't know, it's her.
Oh yeah, so since Sebastian did not read the speech that was prepared. So yeah, that's a good point.
What did you think, Carlos?
So here, it's very interesting because obviously I'm not a comic book reader, so I have no qualms with killing this character off, because he is indeed annoying. He is indeed a spoiled brat, and I had no goodwill towards this character. One thing that I will say though that kind of bothered me was sort of the execution of this whole scene. It seemed too kind of campy, the way that he was chasing around Max throughout the streets. And the fact that Max was there, I'm like, why are you there? Why are you chilling next to the WWE WrestleMania main event?
We'll get into all the little theatrics with it too, because that was kind of interesting.
That was my issue. It's just, why was she there? Why wasn't she next to Eugene or adjacent to Eugene, somewhere near? So you guys, because when this deed was done by them, they had to go on the run, because they can't come back from this. This is an act of war towards the Milton family. Mm-hmm. So I just kept asking myself, why is she right in the thick of it?
The only thing I can say with that is that she is the assistant to Governor Milton, and most of the time, you see this with politicians, they have what the AKA entourage, and usually that is like the speechwriter or someone that's with them. And so I think that's why she was there. Would have been suspicious if she wasn't. That's like a dead giveaway. But yeah, I think once the speech started and she looked up at Eugene, and Eugene gave that little nod like, yeah, I'm about to do this, she should have just hauled ass. She should go, but then I don't know where she was going to go. That's the other thing. They never discussed the backup plan, and we'll get into it a little later on with the other characters. But go ahead.
Yeah, and that's something. And I don't know if you want me to get into this.
Go ahead. We're all over the place, because it was the meat and potatoes of this episode was that Sebastian. There was a lot of setup for other things, moving parts. But man, this is why we're starting toward the back end of the episode. Go ahead.
It just baffled me what their strategy was. It baffled me why they didn't clue anyone. It looks like they didn't clue anyone else in on this whole ordeal, and the fact they went to Hornsby. Like, I don't understand the scene with Hornsby and the candy apple. I don't understand.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. Maybe he just felt like he was calm or something. Is that a way to just symbolize like he didn't care? What? Go ahead.
Yeah, he just wanted a snack, Adam. That's all that was.
Candy apple. Because I mean, if we jump into that part with that whole thing with Carol and making the deal, and as you know, the ending of the last episode where Daryl had captured him, Hornsby looked like he was going to kill him, do the whole thing, but then Mercer shows up with Governor Milton and Carol, and they're like, "Oh, we made a deal, and this, no, you can't kill him." And so what was he stabbed him in the hand, and it's like, all right, there we go. But I don't know. There's a lot of that makes no sense, because even when he was handed over to Governor Milton, she could have just then killed him. But I understand why she didn't, because they were going to use him as the fall guy. They were going to blame him for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something they should have done before they had that big celebration, which is why I felt a little out of place, because they're like, oh, all of a sudden all right, so you have the Commonwealth all chanting they want Sebastian's head, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now you tell them that, oh, no, we captured Hornsby. He's the one behind all of this. But we didn't see that take place on the show. They didn't present that information to the crowd on the show. And we're supposed to just assume that everybody's cool with him giving this speech. And that was, you know what I mean? It's like, that doesn't make any sense. I couldn't understand if they know that Hornsby is the one and we've already seen a trial take place or is in the process of taking place. And it's like, oh, look, see, my good name is cleared. Now let me give you my speech and blah, 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 blah. But they didn't do that. They didn't do that. So it's just a bunch of little things that don't even add up. And here's the other thing. We know that Eugene and Max know that Hornsby has his little special forces unit. We know this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now one of them tells, or at least Max, she doesn't even tell Governor Milton any of this. She should have. I don't understand. You just say, hey, listen, I know you have them locked up, but you got to go after some other people. There was a woman impersonating me. And there's this other dude who is like a hitman walking around. She doesn't say anything, but we know she knows about him.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a plot hole right there. That whole little thing, right? I see where they were trying to get to, and they just wanted to get there. And that's also why we jumped toward the end of the episode, because there was a lot of little moving parts. But man, this is how it all connects. And that one part didn't really fit well, like you said, with the apple. And it's
so. Can I make a quick comment here? I agree 100% with the both of you. There's a lot of plot holes in this episode. What I do want to say, though, is that I know this episode was called A New Deal, but it really is a big deal because of the ramifications of what will come as a result of this. Now, I just want to say, obviously, somebody has to pay. But I think that a lot of that, of the foreshadowing of what could happen, you saw in this episode, a lot of groups were now separating, going their separate ways, and all.
Oh, they're sending them home, and that's one. And when that was the other thing I was going to say, when they showed that part with Alpha's daughter, I'm blanking, Lydia, and a few others, and now she has a boyfriend and the whole thing, and them saying their goodbyes, and they're all going back to the hilltop, I think, or was it? I think it was the hilltop, because they were talking about whether they were going to Hilltop or Alexandria, but either way, they are leaving already. There's some of them that are allowed to leave, and the other ones are going to stay because they want to get everybody else out, and that you're setting it up. That's what they were doing. This whole thing was a setup. The same part with Daryl and giving the gun, which was Rick's gun, over to Judith. And her saying, no, I don't want this. I was like, well, you're gonna need this. There's gonna be a war, and I think he sort of hinted at that too. It's like, no, you're gonna need it, but no, she's done with it. She's done with that life. But as you saw toward the end, and that's where the little camping is, Carlos, what you were talking about, I felt it at that point. Out of all the people that were gathering around watching this Walker, Maul, Sebastian, the one that puts him down is Judith.
Yep.
Yeah, and I get it. It's for the moment. It's to symbolize, like, when she was like, "Give me the gun," when the poop hit the fan and she was running around, she's bucking shots, and she took out a Walker and the whole thing, proving that she could hold her own. To do that, that symbolism was like, all right, now she's taking control. She is pretty much filling in for Carl, because a lot of this was Carl's doing. A lot of his roles in the comics and how he portrayed himself, and continued on after his father's death. And even though she's young, for the longest time, I think we even discussed it for a while. It's like when they were going to do a time jump, if we were ever going to see teenage Judith. We're not going to get that. I wouldn't be surprised if she shows up in one of the spinoffs as a teenager. They could easily do another time jump, 5 more years. Not a big deal, right? We could see that.
Yeah.
But right now, it was that part thing. I wasn't surprised that everybody was standing around, but then I was, because I'm like, there's still walkers running around. Is there time
Yes.
to just say,
Yep.
hey, let me just stand here and watch this guy get mauled? No,
Yeah.
they should have just had everybody running and step over him, or just like move around like they don't care. That would have been
Well,
better.
no, they wanted to see this guy fall. So I kind of understand them taking in the moment, even though I'm pretty sure there's some that will feel bad later that they felt that way. But let me just add this real quick, and then we'll continue. When I say that there are ramifications, I what I feel is that obviously they somebody has to pay, but it's going to be a situation where the characters who have already told you in this episode, or I'm going to stay behind. Perfect example, Ezekiel tells Carol, I'm going to stay behind and make a difference. I feel all of those characters now, their lives are at jeopardy because the deal is off, in my opinion. The
All
deal
right,
is off
wait.
now.
Then we'll put a new deal. Here it is. We're putting a betting game. So you're saying right now you think Ezekiel is going to die?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. What about you, Carlos? Wait, we got you marked down. Carlos,
Yeah.
is Ezekiel going to die?
Ezekiel will definitely die.
All right. So then I'm alone. I say he takes over once the whole thing happens, because of just that one line that he said. I feel like it could make a difference.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. When the poop hits the fan and Governor Milton is out and she's done, who's going to run it? We know it's not going to be Maggie. In the comics, it was Maggie, but Maggie's leaving to do her spinoff. There goes that. Go ahead.
So I like that. But here's the question that I will now ask you, and I will also ask this to people who are watching or commenting on the show. Who are going to be the casualties? Because there has to be some casualties because of what happened in this episode. There's no way everybody survives. And it needs to be a major character, I would say, that also needs to go out. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that.
I feel like, Rich, as minorities, we know too well that it feels like it's like open season on us whenever it comes to our characters.
Yes.
And we know the characters that are going to survive this and that are going to move on and do their spin-offs. Most of them, So, we have our Ezekiels, we have our Jerry's, we have our Father Gabriel, we have Rosita's, we have Negan's wife. Those are, and Aaron. I'd include Aaron also as one of the likely.
But he's the villain for Rick of the character. I think he's going to live.
No, man. No, Aaron. Let me tell you, Aaron. For some reason, every time I watch this show, Aaron is always like he always has to be apart from his daughter, and I always feel bad about it. And I'm pretty sure they're doing this on purpose because they want to make it so when Aaron dies, he's not like it's going to be like an emotional thing, and it's.
But, all right, so here's the thing, though. If Aaron dies, who takes care of these kids? It's not going to be Carol, because Carol didn't go with them. So who takes care of these kids?
You talking about his daughter? Who's going to take care of his daughter?
Well, his daughter, but then even RJ, because RJ also left. It was only Judith that stood behind, and that wasn't even by design.
RJ was in the apartment.
Oh, was he still? But I think they're leaving because even when Daryl was walking around, the whole reason why he was outside with Judith is because she ran off, because he said she doesn't want to go, and then he had to go find her, and then he found her, talked to her, and then she said, "Well, can I say goodbye to my friends?" So she's leaving also.
Oh no, that's all out the window once the whole invasion of the janitor walkers came through. That's what's going to change everything.
And see, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because when they had the characters saying their goodbyes, that felt like a lot of them will not be reuniting because something is going to happen. And then they also introduced in the previous episode this horde that was coming towards the coming towards the Commonwealth. So I'm wondering, how the hell did they manage to go their separate ways and not be concerned about this horde?
And I was going to bring that up too, because that was a big threat in the last episode. But then in this one, oh no, everything's going to be fine. We give the speech. We got this wrestling match that's going to take place. We're all going to make a lot of loud noise. The threat's over. That's what I'm saying. It's like it was very rushed. It went from, instead of like slowly getting to where we need to go, they just went to 1 to 10. And like we went to everyone really pissed off to, yeah, we're all happy we're watching a wrestling match. And that didn't add up for me. That didn't add up. Like even with all those walkers, yes, we saw the janitors get shot up or whatever. They were going to be setting things up. There was only a handful of them, but there was a whole bunch of walkers that were in. So they found some way to get in. It was a breach of some sort, and I'm assuming it was Hornsby people that opened up the gate. But again, what happened to that big horde threat that we saw Mercer and Rosita racing off to deal with?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't come back high-fiving and saying it's Miller time, we did it. No. So it's still happening. That makes much sense. And then, like you said, then everyone's being packed up. It's like, all right, let's go. And they're outside the walls of the Commonwealth.
Mm-hmm.
And unless, again, if they were to show the map, it's like, oh yeah, all that craziness is on the north side. We're on the south side. It's good. It's good. This is the way to go. But they didn't go there, and so we just gotta take it for what it is. All right, keep going, Carlos.
I forgot what point I was in.
About the horde and the threats and
yeah, I mean the horde. I mean what they made clear is that Milton has that up her sleeve. It's like she can command the horde from whenever she wants. She's the one that set the horde on the run to scare off the people that were protesting. Now that she lost her son and her son was killed essentially by people just neglecting the fact that he was in danger and letting him die, she's gonna want to get back at everyone. And I'm pretty sure she's gonna use that horde.
You think they're gonna show that? Because if we go from the trailer at the end of the episode, we see that she's talking to some soldiers. I don't see Max in it, but she was like, someone's gonna pay for this or something like that, to that effect. So I don't know if she knows that everyone stood around that way. And if anything, shouldn't she be? No, she's not gonna be happy. But I mean, in a way, Judith tried to save, the son Sebastian. I don't really think she did. I think she just put this Walker down because that's what she's here to do, kill him. Mm-hmm. But she did kill the one that was on top of him while everybody else stood around. Again, I don't know if she saw that. We'll find out in the next episode.
And the friend didn't look happy with Judith being a little Judith Wick.
Right? Yeah.
Definitely did not seem pleased by the situation.
But that's the thing. They lived a very sheltered life. All the people that went in, which I never bought. I never bought that idea in the comics, and I definitely don't buy it here, because you're living in this compound for a reason, because things are so bad outside. So you can't make it seem like we didn't know it was that bad. Yeah, you knew. You knew because you're living here. You can't just go travel like you did before. You can't say, you know what, I'm going to go visit my family in Cincinnati. No, you can't do any of that. So if anything, everybody should know how to defend themselves. Everybody should be armed just in case, to some point. Not all having crazy guns, but at least know how to use a bat or something, or do a takedown with the legs, aim for the knees, that type of thing. So I'm still surprised when that reaction, because even before that, when they had talked about weapons and stuff, some of the looks.
But, I wasn't surprised. They look sheltered from the beginning.
It's just surprising. That's one thing. It's surprising that they would even. It's as if they're trying to go along with, sort of like what Sebastian said in his speech. It's these people, they just need someone to lead them. They're sheep. They don't care, and they're not paying attention to what's really going on.
I mean, think about the protesters. They're protesting the fact that their kids were, killed or disappeared and all that. And just imagine doing that to Daryl and the gang. They wouldn't be protesting. They'd be.
But it was like night, yeah, and it was night and day, and then it's like the next day. Oh, we're just gonna go, and it's gonna be the lottery and celebration day, right? What was it, something like that? And in the comics, it was big with football, and I think at the end of this episode on AMC Plus, one of the showrunners, she had talked about that they wanted to redo that scene as well, but due to COVID restrictions and all that, they couldn't have all these people, so. Somebody had suggested to do a wrestling match, which is fine. We like wrestling, so we're like, all right, cool. I wanted to look up those two that were in the ring to see who they were. Probably some indie wrestlers. They were actually taking bumps and stuff. So, but it was cool. It was cool to see that. But it makes sense. Entertainment. I mean, this has been only back from the Romans and the Colosseum, right? When the shit would hit the fan, things would get crazy. Then next year, we're like, all right, we're going to celebrate and have a bunch of games at the Colosseum for like a week, and that would distract everyone just from what's really going on. And like, all right, fine, yeah, we're going to have these celebrations and we're going to watch all this craziness. So this was to distract them. But I felt it was too soon. It was too soon, especially with the report that came out, and they still didn't really address the whole thing with the killing and trying to now say Sebastian's okay, and then they had Hornsby, but that still wasn't officially done. The court case didn't start. There was no facts. I just don't see how everybody can, at some point that soon, just put their guard down. Like, yeah, we're not going to approach this anymore. Let's go on with this match and this celebration.
Mm-hmm.
Too soon. So what else did we see? We still didn't see Princess. We didn't see Princess,
geez.
but we did see at the end of this episode there was a little teaser. Like I told you, I avoid trailers. I hate trailers because I feel like misleading. They throw a lot of stuff, but this was forced. This is always right at the end. They just throw it in your face. And we got to see her, so I was thrilled about that, right? So she's still a player in this. She didn't just magically die or something horrible happen off camera because she left the show or something like that. But the big news, and we had talked about this in the last episode, is when Aaron says, I heard this rumor about these walkers that can run and climb walls.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. This is what we were waiting for, because we were wondering, because for those who don't know, which you should know if you follow this podcast, and you know, but other outlets have been talking about this too, that the City of the Dead City, the spinoff with Negan and Maggie, the main part of that is that the walkers are no longer walking. They're going to be running at them 28 days later.
So this is to emphasize how different New York is from the South, I guess. The walkers are more aggressive, all types of stuff.
Well, that's the part that I'm trying to figure out, because I don't think we're going to see that here, or we would have seen it. And I think exactly, you hit the nail on the head right there. Somewhere along the lines, there's going to be a conversation, and Aaron is going to say, well, I heard this rumor that there's this mutated version that's out on the East Coast. Now, maybe or maybe not, they will go into explaining why Negan and Maggie need to go there. And we keep saying Negan and Maggie, but there could be others. It's just Negan and Maggie were the ones that they keep hyping up to the big stars. I'm sure they're going to be surrounded by a bunch of fillers, because all those fillers have to die, right? You have to kill some people off. Yeah. So we don't know, but they planted that seed early, and that was amazing. I'm watching this, and you just hear him say, I heard this rumor about these runners and they could climb wall. I'm like, whoa, here we go. So anything is possible. And in fact, even at that point, for some reason, I know we don't like to talk about that show anymore, but the kids from World Beyond popped up in my head, because I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if they find a way to squeeze these kids into some of those spinoffs.
Yeah. Yep. What, Dead City?
Yep, Dead City, or because remember, they were going to New York. That was they went somewhere else, but the whole plan was to go to New York, right? That was where they wanted to go. So who knows? Who knows?
If they end up on Dead City, I cannot make a promise that I will be watching that show for too long. Unless something happens to them, then I will continue watching. But we'll see.
We will see. Let's see. What else for the buildups? Because there was a lot of little buildups. You already talked about the whole Carol thing, saying she was agreeing that she's leaving, but Ezekiel's saying, let's see, Eugene, he has something to say, but he wants Max to leave. And I think at this point, what just happened, Max would leave. But then again, Mercer, that's her brother. I don't think she's going to leave him. And I think Eugene would want to stay with her.
Yeah. So. I would hope that Mercer wants to leave as well. I don't know why he would stay behind after all this has happened. But
it's to fix things. Well, and I know some people, especially if you're watching the show, and just to show, you would think, well, let's see, if the governor falls, just like in real life, what usually happens, it's because something happens with one of the military leaders, and then that military leader takes over, right? And then now it's the military that's in control of the government, whether it's good or bad. That's usually how it happens, the general. So if that was to apply in this universe, that would mean Mercer becomes the ruler of this area, and that's possible because remember, Max was like, "You got to fix this. You got to make a change. You got to do this whole thing." And he remember this is last season when he was working out, when we were seeing him all jacked up, and she was giving him the whole speech about, Liz, stop being a puppet type of deal.
I will say this show follows the sibling rule, meaning if you're a sibling in this show, the other one's gonna die. So we don't know if it's gonna be Max or Mercer. One of them is gonna die.
Well, you know what? Because you said that, let me just make a quick comment, because I know Carlos, you said last week you was talking about how they opened the episode, right? And they show flashbacks of stuff that is happening on the show.
Yes.
I want to ask, did you think they were trying to troll people when they showed all those people that died? I was expecting an even more important character to die at the end of this episode, and then it ends up becoming Sebastian. So, all right, well, but that video made me believe, maybe a main character was going to die.
They showed a lot of Marv and Daryl told me, "You left my brother to die up there." And I'm like, "Oh boy."
I got, when they showed T-Dog, I lost it, man.
Yeah.
There's so many. They've come and gone. Yeah, I guess, and they're still doing it, and I'm suspecting that this is going to continue only till the last episode, and we're going to see Judith talking, and then, or where she was writing this down, and then see whoever she's with at the time. Because even though we know Daryl survives, doesn't mean he's going to be there, because we know that he leaves to do something else. So,
well, eventually, her real parents need to raise her
at some point. That's what I'm saying. Who? And everything is pointing to Aaron right now. And Aaron is going to be the father of everything. If in my head,
no, I'm talking about Rick and Michonne.
That's not happening.
No, there has to be a happy ending for that.
I think they'll reunite. There's going to be some kind of reunion, but as we know, they're doing their own show.
Yeah.
So I don't see how the kids fit in that, unless it's like one of those. We're going to take the family and we're going to go and live a life in a cabin somewhere.
Well, actually, I think as Carlos suggested last week, I think the Rick and Michonne show is going to show you what happened prior to whatever happens with them showing up in these final episodes.
So you agree. Filler. It's like a filler.
Rick and Michonne aren't going to show up in the mothership again just to kill the bad guy and give deuces to the kids.
Okay.
That's not going to happen.
Well, the way I saw it was not so much of that, is that maybe they do a time jump toward the end of this episode of the season, and then we see that the kids are older, and maybe they're doing their own thing, and they continue in that way. I just don't see them running around adventuring with two little kids.
But so what adventures does Rick and Michonne have yet to do? I mean,
Civic Republic. That's it. To fight them. That's the only thing I can think of. That's the big bad.
Maybe they fought him. Maybe they fought him during the
well, that's it. And it brings up now I would say it's more plausible with what Rich was saying, and you too. I didn't know you were thinking that as well. But it's a filler. It's filling in the time. So
we have to see Rick versus Jadis, right? That's the big bad that he would have to face. I'm assuming.
She's still alive.
Yeah,
she's still alive. We do know that from World Beyond. But then again, she says she left that life behind her. This is a new version of her, because she was like the leader, commander, the whole thing, as opposed to the weird cult leader of the weirdos in the scrapyard. I don't know. It's going to be interesting, and that story has to be compelling, because if not, no one's going to watch. No one is going to watch. Even if Rick is involved, even if Michonne's involved, no one is going to watch, because then it's no longer about The Walking Dead. It's something completely different. If this is just them fighting a big bad that's not really relevant in the mothership. Like, we know the Civic Republic is a big bad because of World Beyond, 2 seasons of them showing, oh, we got like what 6 or 9 locations and we're taking over. It's one of those type of things. But they have been a non-factor in the mothership in The Walking Dead proper. We just recently started getting glimpses of them in Fear the Walking Dead.
Yep.
So it's a big jump to just right toward the end of the entire series of this one to say, hey, here's a real big bad, and start watching those spinoffs. People will be like, you know what, I'm out. This is not what I wanted. So they it's got to be compelling. And the same goes for Maggie and Negan going to New York. There's got to be a reason. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be surprised if they pull sort of like what we just saw. Well, not what we just saw, but what happened with Rick getting shuttled off in a helicopter by the Civic. What if that happens to Negan's wife? And then the tie-in was like, where are they going? Well, their main HQ is in New York. And he said, well, then I guess we're going to New York. I'm going. And then Maggie says, well, you saved my son Herschel during that time, so I'm going to help you get your kid and wife. I'm going to do that. So I'll go with.
I have a question for you guys. Do you think the Commonwealth is going to be a place after the show is over? Is it still going to be some? Yeah, I think Adam, you're leaning towards yes because you're saying that Ezekiel's going to run it.
No, he's going to run it, but I don't think it's going to be relevant. I think
he's run it to the ground.
I think it's like he did the Kingdom.
He said it during this episode. He's like, I can't wait to run this down to the ground like I do every other place that I'm in, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. It was pretty dark.
I think he's going to. I think whoever ends up taking over, that's it. That's the last we see of the Commonwealth. I don't see how the spin-off, unless they do one of the spin-offs in the Commonwealth or connected in some way. But right now, think about it. The 2 major spin-offs that we know about, the Maggie and Negan, that's in New York. The Daryl is taking place in Europe, right? That's nowhere near here. So it's just the Rick and Michonne, and that's it. What else? What of the show? What's taking place in the Commonwealth?
Well,
Fear can...
Fear. Right now, where are they? They're in Texas. I think they're in California somewhere. I mean, they were in Mexico. They were in California. Then they went to Mexico. Then from Mexico, then they went to Texas, and then now they were on the rafts. Remember, they were going somewhere else. So
they're I don't somewhere. Know.
Yeah, we don't know.
Although Morgan said he's going back to Georgia. So
yeah. This dude likes to travel, man. He likes to travel.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised. And here's my, we've been predicting the last couple of minutes, so I'll get in my 2 cents. We're getting all of these spin-off shows. My prediction is, Scott Gimple and AMC do not want this cash cow to end. Even though it's been slowly dying down from when we had the peak Walking Dead, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of these spin-offs is just their attempts to get another type of mothership going on.
Of course. That's what we told me. Even with the Tales, with all those weird stories, how none of them connect, and it's trying to hope that at least one of them bites, and everyone's like, "Wow, I need to see more of that."
Mm-hmm. So, if the Daryl and non-Carol show blows up, or the Negan and Maggie show blows up, they can establish their own mothership, and then you'll get the characters from all the other spin-off shows and the mothership, the people that survived, and Fear and World Beyond and Tales, or wherever they want to get their peoples, and then just sprinkle them in from time to time as sort of member berries for this new show.
That's a good point.
I agree, but I respectfully say this: I do not want to see another season of Tales. So hopefully that show does get canceled. You know, and if you want to have some of the characters show up, that's fine. But yeah, I don't need to see another season of that.
All right, and for the viewers and the listeners out there, go ahead on YouTube on our channel and just put a comment. Which spinoff do you want to see? Are you looking forward to any of these, or this is it? I'm sure for a large majority of people, they're like, yeah, I already lasted 11 years with this damn thing. I'm done. I just want to see how this ends, and they're going to walk away. And that's happens with a lot of shows. The spinoffs.
It's been more than 11 years.
Well, yeah, with the break and all the other craziness, but I'm just wondering how many people are going to stick around. It's very rare that a spinoff carries on longer than the original show, so I don't think we're going to see that here. But there are some cases where a spinoff is successful, whether it's a prequel type spinoff, like comes to mind. Better Call Saul is one. Young Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory, that whole thing, that's on like season 6 or something like that. I mean, people love that one. So it's possible that they can go up there. But
Star Trek did this a lot of times.
They did. Those are all different shows altogether. Not so. Yeah,
they're different, but they are spinoffs. There are spinoffs because I mean they're still interconnected. Those worlds.
They're interconnected, but it's never just like one character leaving and starting a whole other, like the Jeffersons, for example. You remember the Jeffersons were a part of All in the Family, right? And so when George Jefferson lived next to Archie Bunker, and then he left, that's when we're moving on up, and the East Side. So when they moved, then that made sense because there was a direct connection. They were on that show. They saw that with Star Trek. See, now we're just spinning off. But yeah, Star Trek was like, they were just more within the universe. There's other fleets. Sometimes there were other time periods, whatever. But with this, I don't know. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe one of these will pick up. I think the introduction of running walkers, just that variant, changes the game, changes everything. And it all depends on the presentation of how they pull this off. If they pull this off, because he said running and climbing walls. Climbing walls. It's different than just saying, running and using the door, like understanding how to turn the knob. Climbing walls. Why are they so gung-ho to then kill you if they're willing to try to climb a wall? Which brings me back to World War Z. The movie. The book didn't. They had walkers. They didn't have runners. But the Brad Pitt movie, remember they were all like bang against the wall to the point that they would try to climb it, but then others would come behind them. Next, they built like this whole anthill, and then they go over. Who's to say they can't pull that off here? I don't know if that's something copywritten from that movie from Brad Pitt, because that was not in the book. So that would be all his doing.
They're also going to have to try to figure out a way, and maybe they'll just won't care, but walkers or runners or whatever they're going to be called, they're going to have to, I don't know if reproduce is the correct word, but multiply, because we're already almost a decade into this thing, and we're running out of people. And they already mentioned that they have a shelf life.
Mm-hmm. So, well, they pointed that out a few seasons back when it was snowing. Remember, they were like, if we go in an area where there's heavy snow, then we'll be safe. They won't be able to get us. But they squash that because eventually somebody in the group dies. And when that person dies, they turn and bite everybody else. And that's how the cycle continues.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that's the problem with every large community. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, the only thing I was going to say is if they are running now, that means a lot of our favorite characters, they cannot continue to get away. So it's going to be a lot more harder for everyone to survive, whatever happens with these running walkers. So I want to see how they tell that story.
It's also, they're going to also have to have that in the Daryl spinoff as well, because he's going to France, and that's where that took place.
Exactly. That's where it started.
The scientist was talking about it, and then that's when the scientist died, and then you see the scientist get up and then turn and run toward the door. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it pans out. And who knows? Maybe this could be all these little spin-offs leading to another Walking Dead. You know what I mean? It's like
Mhm.
branching, and not so much of the Maggie Negan season 2, 3. So no. They all branch out, but then they come back together, and then it's called Walking Dead after I don't know, whatever, come up with some silly name, whatever.
No,
And
no.
they all reunite. But now the game has changed. Now they're in a completely different location. Walkers are not longer walkers. Maybe they don't even call it Walking Dead. They'll just put like TWD. They'll just say it that way. You know, it's like Kentucky Fried Chicken. No, we don't want to tell everybody it's fried. So they can't. Same thing. We don't want to keep calling it Walking Dead when the show has running walkers. You know, so TWD, just so you know, it's the brand, it's a franchise. Who knows? The sky's the limit, but like you said, I think both agree is that they AMC and they don't want to let this die. They don't want to let Walking Dead die. And as fans of the show and of the brand itself, the franchise, I don't want to see it die. But you want to see some kind of progression. And we've seen in Fear, they've thrown all the ideas that people said, oh, can you survive on a little island? They tried that. Or you survive on a boat. They've done that. I mean, they've thrown a lot of those what ifs, how people would survive during an apocalypse situation like this. Mm-hmm. So how do you keep going with it? How do you keep doing it?
That's a good question. I mean, listen, I understand AMC's decision to want to continue to keep making these type of shows. My only real complaint is that it would have been great to get these announcements after the show, the main show had ended.
We know too much.
Yeah, we know way too much about somebody. Like if they announce one of the spinoffs, then that's fine. But then now they announce all these other shows. It kind of dampens what you think is going to happen with certain people at the end of the show. So
yeah, they can't say that. Yeah, and just like what we heard right now toward the end of that episode, and that's what we've been discussing, where Aaron said about all the walkers I've heard they can run and climb walls. We can't say that, oh, this is something that Maggie and Negan knew about while they were also on their breaks. Remember when Negan went off doing his own thing, and then of course now he found a wife and everything, and then Maggie went and found another community. We can't say, oh, they knew about it, because if they did, they would have told everybody. So whatever they're doing on their show is not a prequel of like, oh, this is what happened while they were away. No, it's just going to be after fix. So we will see. But that was just our thoughts on all that, because they planted that seed in this episode, people. So people are like, oh, you're talking about everything as if it's over already. No, but that's right at the end of this episode. So think about it. From here on, that's going to be a game changer, unless we don't see any of it. And it was just one of those things like in passing. I don't know how he brings it up. Go ahead.
I mean, with this episode, there wasn't really, it's weird. There's a lot, but there's not much to this episode, because this episode was them sort of gathering what they're about to do. And it was the bomb that was thrown at the end where everything's going to be in chaos. And obviously this is sort of their segue to the end game. This is sort of one of the first steps towards the end, and yeah. But other than that, we didn't get too much. We got a lot of character moments. We got the whole thing with Daryl and Judith and their interactions with that. I thought were really good.
And then just that was it. Now think about it. That was the only part because Judith was upset that Daryl was leaving and not trying to fix the situation there, and he's like, "This is not our fight." The issues that they're dealing with, so this has nothing to do with us. We did the trade in, we're getting our people out, and we're leaving. We're done with this. But she liked it there. She liked all of this, and she felt it was worth fighting. And that didn't really make much sense, because he's not going to fight against the governor. It's not his land. He doesn't care. That's not his role. And even with everything that we know from Daryl, he's never wanted to be a leader.
Yes, and we also know he doesn't care, because he has another spinoff that they have already announced.
That's what he said.
That he is on.
I leave soon. That's why you have to take this gun. I have to go. Where are you going? Don't worry about it. I'll write you postcards.
Yeah, we got a lot of those types of moments. We got the Rosita Father Gabriel moment. And we got the Aaron and
are they a couple? Are they a couple?
Oh yeah.
Because we don't. We
No,
really
they're definitely a couple.
I feel it's weird because we see them hanging together, but we don't see that embrace. We don't really see that connection. It's like
I'm pretty sure there's like a 20-year age gap in there.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. It's
Oh.
just it's weird how they put that whole thing together. And she's mentioned, I care about my kid and my family. She says she didn't say when that time
Yep.
she was talking to Mercer. She didn't say Gabriel. I mean, you already said your kid.
Gabriel
She-
essentially adopted the kid
Yeah,
because the dad died.
Yeah.
the dad died. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
So-
I don't know if they are together or if he's just a friend
So-
that helps out and occasionally they have some, fun on the side.
Oh, whoa. So they are a couple, but not for long because he probably will get taken out before the season's over.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that Rosita. I think Rosita will be safe until the end, but it just I don't know how y'all felt, but some of the conversations that happen between certain characters makes you feel like that was a goodbye, and that character will not.
And
You're
that's
not going
fine.
to see that character again.
Yeah, and that's justified because this is usually what they do for their previous seasons. Remember, they would have like an episode where everyone would have like sentimental moment, talking and happy moment, and then Walkers would come or Negan would come, and everybody, all hell would break loose, and everybody, people would die, and so like, oh no, she's leaving to do Discovery. It's like, I forgot the character's name, but remember, she's the captain over Star Trek Discovery. But same thing, she died, and they put her in the box. She said, "Put me in the box, send me over as a trap," that type of thing, and they opened up, and she started biting people.
Yep, Sasha.
That's right, Sasha. That was another one. So who knows? But I'm curious. I'm gonna watch. We're all gonna watch. I'm sure everybody listening is gonna keep watching, and then we'll see. Now it's questionable about the spinoffs, but I think everybody's just gonna jump in. At least I'm gonna just. I can't stop watching until they stop doing all this. Until everybody bows their head and it's like, "Yep, close curtain. We're done." Got to keep following this. I gotta ride this Walking Dead train out.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta do it. All right, people. Thanks again for tuning in over on iTunes, Spotify, and the YouTube. Go ahead. We had a lot of discussions for possible ideas of where this is going, especially for these characters. So if you want to partake in that, go ahead and drop those comments over on YouTube, and we will reply back. Anything's possible at this point. Who's going to live? Who's going to die? Who's going to take control of certain areas? What's going to happen? And then we'll just take it from there. So thanks again, and we will be back next week for episode 19. This is they're banging them out. This is it. We're getting to the end. All right, people. Have a good week. Peace.